style inputs with CSS. So today we're going to be covering quite a bit of ground, so just bear with me, guys. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, I just want to introduce myself and the team that we are having here. My name is Frank. I'm one of the mentors here in co-mentoring. The organizer, Tristan, and the other mentor, Shane, here is also part of this organization as well. And we're an international organization started in Australia, and we are in Toronto now, meeting up every Saturday. And in downtown Toronto, because of coronavirus, we are in the webinar as you hear today, and it's quite a big community that we have going on, because what we do here in the community is we don't just kind of code here. We do more than just code, as we'll talk more about that later. We have a website called codementoring.co. This is a website that we are currently building by the people who are in co-mentoring, who are also learning about this project. And so this codementoring.co website is basically you can say a training ground for all of us. If anybody of you here who are new, who want to get started and is like, oh my God, I don't know what to do afterwards. Well, we have a place for you here as well. So the project can be found at github.com, co-mentoring. And as I mentioned before, we have a Slack channel. If you follow the tiny.cc link, you will take you to the Slack channel where you get an invitation. You can get in contact with all of us. Okay. So what exactly are we going to do today? Today I'm going to show you that CSS is awesome. And for some of you here who already know a little about CSS, know exactly what this picture is. As for all the beginners, you're going to know what exactly I'm talking about in just a short moment. That this is actually a very common thing when you're working with CSS. It's just things don't just always work the way that it should. Okay. So why exactly are we doing this, right? Because technology is everywhere. It's not just in our living spaces anymore. I remember 10 years ago when I was in elementary school, technology may be, maybe just a computer in your living room, but now you have it on your hand. Now you have it on the fridge, right? Everywhere you go, if you go into workspace, any workspace, you'll find at least one computer, even in a warehouse, right? In the dining settings, you're going to find couples who are sitting across from each other. They might not talk to each other, but you can certainly see that they are I don't know. Me and my friend have this joke that they're talking through their phones and not talking through in person, right? And then obviously, families also use it. As the time goes by, older people in the older generation are starting to pick this up as well. So it is a very, very good time in the history of the world right now to learn something about technology, especially coding, right? But what exactly is coding? Now, when people think about coding is something very abstract, but it's basically just a language that you learn throughout this journey. And when I say language, I don't mean a language like Italian or Spanish or English, but it is much more, a little bit more abstract. You have to be able to talk to a computer. So as you can see in this image, if you're trying to talk to a computer verbally, we can't exactly do that. It is very frustrating that we can't do that, because it would be a lot easier, but sadly we can't do that yet. So we have to learn another language that we can talk to the computer. So the specific language that we are going to be talking about today is going to be HTML and CSS. The reason why we choose these two languages is because it's one of the easier language to understand. It's easier to wrap your head around, okay? And so in HTML, in a nutshell, it's basically how should I put it? It's basically a semantic that you place in on text that you can convey to your computer so that they can understand what it is that you want them to do. So in this example, you got an examples of a Russian doll, which you have a doll inside another doll, inside another doll, inside another doll. And we're going to get into more about why this is the case in just a moment when I show you guys how to actually code in HTML. Okay, so let's go through what the anatomy of HTML looks like. So let's say you have something that you want to show on the web page. So this thing's called stuff. So the stuff can be anything you want. It could be a book title. It can be an article heading, but whatever it is, it's going to be stuff here. And the way that we want to convey to the browser that this is a title, we're going to be encasing it with open something and in square brackets. And then we're going to close it by inserting close something tag like so. So this open something stuff and closing something all together is what we call an HTML. Sounds a little complicated, right, guys? How many of you here are following me so far? Any question? Okay, so let me show you guys how exactly this can be done. And it's very easy to do. And for those of you who are very new to coding, you'll be very, very surprised that this can be accomplished within the next 30 seconds. So if you're new here today and don't know how to code, we're going to code something and we're going to make something work right now. So follow me here. Just right click on your desktop and just create new text document. And we're just going to call this document index.html.
Can't see the screen. You're still on the slide.
I'm sorry?
I can only see the slides, the screen.
Sorry about that. Let me show you something. Sorry about that, guys. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see Beginner Wednesdays.
Yep, Beginner Wednesday. Do you see
your desktop, right?
The index icon here? Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I have my my recording set to a specific window. That's when I should be doing it in the monitor.
Anyways, should be seeing you writing some HTML code, right?
Yep. So we're starting here. Click new. Create a text document, and we're just going to call it index.html. Okay, and just press enter. Change the file name. So now you should see your icon change to one of your default browsers that you're going to be using. So in here, we're just going to open it with a notepad. So for some of you who are in another platform, maybe Linux or Mac, you can just jump into any one of those text editors that you have, and you can just start with that. And in Windows, we just use Notepad. Okay. And in here, what we're going to do, we're just going to type some random text. Let's just say this is a co-mentoring webinar. Okay. And we're just going to save it. I'm going to put it on the side here. And I'm just going to open this as is by just double clicking it. And as you can see here, can everybody see this? Let me just open it up. Right. So now the browser have an understanding of what we just wrote. And congratulations, guys. This is your first website. And that's as easy as it gets. Does everybody have any questions so far as to what I just did? Okay, cool.
It's a cool website, Frankie.
It is the best website you've ever
This
seen.
is your 2 months of coding as.
That's it. That's what I've achieved in the last 2 months. But what can you guys tell me? What is wrong with this right now? I mean, we talk about HTML, but inside my index HTML, I didn't really write any HTML. So let's just further write more stuff on it. Let's just write up something more. I don't know. My name is Frankie. We are learning about HTML, and we're gonna save it. And you notice how the browser here didn't make any updates, and that is because the changes made on the text document doesn't reflect on the browser. So in order for me to update, we have to do something called refresh, which is a little circle icon right here. You can click that, or you can press F5 on your keyboard. And as you can see, we can see now all the things that we wrote on a text document on the web browser. Exciting stuff, right, guys?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, awesome. So, but there's something wrong going on here. Who can tell me what it is? Curious to know if any of you here have some kind of suggestion what I can do to make this look better, I guess you could say. I mean,
the content is.
Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, the content is wrapped in a tag. The content you put on the page is wrapped in a tag, opening and closing tag.
Ah, so you're talking about a tag. So we can notice that, that's a good one. We notice that the text inside this website right now is just one straight text. But in here, in my document, you notice that it's 3 separate lines. But why doesn't it not register that it doesn't understand that it's in 3 separate lines? That's because we haven't really written any HTML yet. So we're going to go into HTML right now. And the way that we're going to make the distinction between this is a co-mentoring webinar and this next to line, my name is Frankie, we're learning HTML, is that we're going to create an HTML tag called a heading. And the way we do that is we going to write this, open angle bracket, and then we're just going to type in H1, right angle bracket, okay? And then at the end of that sentence right here, at the end, we're going to write the same thing except with a slash. What this means is that we're telling the web browser that this text right here, this is a co-mentoring webinar. Inside this, I want this to be displayed as a heading. And so this is what the tag stands for. We have an opening tag and we have a closing tag. Okay, so we're going to save that and we jump into the browser and we're just going to refresh it. So now you can see that this heading right here, it's just a little big right now, is now a heading on its own, right? And my name is Frankie, it's on a separate line and we're learning about HTML. Cool. But what else do we notice here? Something's still quite not right here, right? What suggestions do you guys have in order for us to separate that?
Put that in a foo tag, a paragraph tag.
Sure, we can totally do another tag. And you mentioned the one paragraph. So in HTML, we use these tags to tell browser what exactly are inside between these tags. So we have a heading here, but we're going to use one called paragraph. So we do the same thing as a heading, but instead of H1, we put a P inside, signifying a paragraph. And then again, we do the same thing, close it, paragraph, and we'll save it again. And then we're going to refreshed our web page, and now everything is on their own line. Does anybody have any questions so far how this is all working out? Okay, so let's change it up a little bit here, because right now these texts right here are not very, you could say, how should I put it? It's not really much, it's not very website-like. So let's just change these texts. I have pre-written text, and I'm just going to turn this into more of a story. Star Wars 7, The Force Awakening. And inside these paragraphs, the text, the next two texts, I'm going to write this. This is basically just the Star Wars opening, guys. There's nothing fancy that I just wrote here. Right, you can write anything you want inside this paragraph, and it will be just fine. So I'm just going to separating everything into their own line so that it's easier to read, right? And we're going to save this, and we're going to do this again. You notice how that they're all back into their own single line. So what else can we actually do to separate them? Does anybody have any ideas? I mean, I can totally put another paragraph tag here, but we don't really want to do that because I want to show you guys the concept of the Russian delta I mentioned a little earlier. Any idea what I can do to separate them? Like how I would do it in a text document right here.
You want to do a line break, Frankie, right?
Oh, thank you, Shane. So yes, you made a suggestion called line break.
Yes, and Salma got it too.
Sorry, Selma got it too.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys are awesome. So we can add a line break. And again, we can do the exact same thing. Every time you put an open angle bracket and a closing angle bracket like this, and you put some kind of lettering inside, it will do something for you. For in this case, it's going to be called a line break. And we're going to put one right here just to see what happens. So we go back to the web page and refresh, and you notice how that they're all, not all, the first line now is standing alone, and the rest of the paragraph is on the next line. So we're just going to...
Don't you need to close the tag, Frankie?
Ah, very perceptive, Tristan. In normal circumstances, let's say an older browser, this would be necessary, right? So now, up here in H1, we have something, we close it by having a similar tag like this. But here, we don't do it like this. The reason why that is because line break doesn't have any content inside. So there's no reason to have this end closing tag. Instead, we just close it. This is called self-closing tag, which basically means it's just a line break. There's no content. Just break the line for me. So we're going to apply this line break in every single line, like so. And we're just going to save it. Refresh, and now everything is on the same line. Cool stuff? Now, who can tell me what's wrong with this website? For those of you who are inspired to be a web designer, what can you guys tell me? What is wrong with this? It looks kind of plain, doesn't it? It doesn't look like anything, really. I mean, it looks more like a book or anything, right? So let's just do a little bit more to it to make it a little bit more fancy. And by the way, if you guys are wondering if there's any more tags, there are absolutely more tags that you can do to spice up your website. And what we call is a dictionary of HTML, where you have a list of all the tags that is available to you as a developer, and you can use any single one of them inside your HTML to make it look even better. So let me just show you guys what it actually looks like in one of these documents. So let's go open here, HTML reference, and all these are the tags that is available to you. And I'm going to put this link up here for everybody in the chat so that you guys can check it out for yourself. And in your spare time, you can also play with it. And I encourage everybody to do so, because that is the best way to learn, is to go through all of them and see what exactly they actually do. So we're just going to keep going, and we're just going to pick on one specific one just to show you guys how you can play with it. Let's do an input. Let's do an input tag right here. Okay, we're just going to copy that, and I'm just going to paste it. Save it, and I'm going to just refresh it. Now you notice how that nothing seems to be happening. All right? Oh, nope, it did happen because I didn't refresh it properly. So now I have an input tag here, and you can type stuff. Cool, right? But this is really plain. In order for us to do something else with it, we have to introduce a different language, a language that is not HTML, and we call that CSS. Let me share with you guys what is CSS and why would you even want to use it. Let's say you have a website, and the way that we have it now is very plain. It's just text. And if you want to add like color into it to make it a little different, we really can't do that with HTML. And that is where CSS comes in. CSS allows you to change things on the HTML that otherwise HTML themselves cannot do. So things like color, background color, how big they are. And those are part of things that are CSS. And the best analogy for that is a construction or a renovation, if you guys are familiar with that. In a typical house, if you're doing renovation, your room can be like an HTML tag, and the walls can be the properties. And you notice that these guys are just pointing stuff in the far distance. You could be pointing, I don't know, a wall in a distant land. The guy would say, like, you know what? I want that wall to change to a different color. And with CSS, we can do that for the HTML. Right? So this is the anatomies of CSS, so you guys can be familiar with it. We're going to find something to change. So this is what the syntax looks like. Find something, whoops, sorry guys, open brace, darn it, keep clicking, sorry, open brace, change something, colon, to something, semicolon, and then end brace, okay? The find something part is what we call a selector, what we want to select. The change part is the property. What is it that we want to change? And then to something, what is the value that we are changing? So let's take a look at how we can accomplish this. Okay. So in here, back into the document, we're just going to go to the very, very top of the document, and we're just going to give it a bunch of blank space here. And we're going to enter in something called a style tag. Okay. And enclosed inside the style tag, there's going to be some content. But the content in there, I'm sorry? Okay. So inside the style tag, the content inside isn't like the rest of the document where it's just plain text. It is going to be CSS, and CSS is not HTML. So let's see what I mean. So let's say I want to change something about the H1, the header, the heading 1. I would use the selector H1, open brace, close brace. And then inside, we're going to find a specific property that we want to change. And we're going to just do something very simple. It's very basic. We're going to call it color. Okay. And we're just going to say anything, blue for now. Okay, and we're just going to save it. And we are going to go back to the browser and just refresh. And now you notice that my heading here now is blue. That's because the property blue, I just changed the color to blue. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I didn't see anything.
Sorry?
Yeah, I didn't see your screen.
You still couldn't see my screen?
I can see it fine. The heading's blue for me. Anybody else?
I would pin Frank with the pin button, and it'll go to his.
Yeah, I just
Oh.
see the Frank log.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is your screen frozen?
Yeah.
No, mine's up to date.
It's working for me.
It's okay for me.
I was just saying he might have pinned you instead of, and then you have to unpin him.
Yeah. So if you guys
Yeah, I'll just put that in the chat just so we get it.
Yeah, if you guys having a difficulty with that, just join again. That's the only solution I have for you guys. It happens to me frequently as well with the frozen screen, and there's nothing I can do about it. Make sure your pin pressure. Okay.
Okay.
So are you guys okay now?
Yes, okay. I need to
Okay.
retry.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, guys. So we're back to this whole CSS thing. We have H1 selector color blue. But now we want to do a little bit more to this, right? Remember the Russian doll analogy that we were talking about? In here, we haven't really used that. So we're going to be backtracking a little bit, and we're just going to add a little bit of stuff here. And I'm just going to say body. And I'm going to go to the very bottom and add body at the end, encasing it. And everything inside, I'm going to indent it. So indentation in HTML is incredibly important for everyone to understand. The reason why we do indentation is to show the hierarchy of the Russian doll effects going on. So we have body right here, where inside the body, we have an H1. So inside the body, we have H1, and we have paragraph, and we have input. So now I hope you guys understand and see the analogy that we are using about the Russian doll. We have body, H1, inside the paragraph, and then a paragraph. Inside the paragraph, we have the line break. Is anybody lost so far, or any question about that? Okay. So the reason why we wanted to use one of these Russian doll hierarchy is so that we can group things together. So right here, my entire story now is being grouped inside body. And what we can do inside this body right here is that we can do something like this. We can group everything together, and we're just going to do something, let's align everything to the center. Center like so. So we have a selector of body, the property will be text align, and we're moving everything of that text towards the center. And when I move back to browser and refresh it, you'll see that everything is now centered. And this can only be accomplished because of the Russian doll analogy that we just described to you. Because everything is inside the body belongs to the body. So everything inside must follow the rules of body. So that's why all of this, even though I didn't specify them or tell them to be centered, that all became centered. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Am I going too fast for anybody, or? Okay. So the last thing that we want to do is that we want to style this last input right here. Right now, we have the story right here, but we want to do something more. We want to know what we can do with this input. Right now, this input doesn't look very, it looks very Windows 95. If anybody knows what Windows 95 is these days, it's just a square box with a blinking cursor, right? We can type stuff here, but that's about it. But nothing compared to what we have in modern browser, where you have like, you know, a pill has background color. It is, you know, you can underline when you click on it and stuff like that. And that is what we're going to get into next. But in order for us to understand how we can accomplish that, we need to know something about what this input in the paragraph in the H1 actually is. And we call this in web development called the box model. Okay, let me just give you an understanding of that. A box model is literally a box. Okay, where a box, let's say a shipping package. How many of you here bought something from Amazon recently? I'm curious to know. All right.
I bought a mouse.
You bought what?
I bought a mouse. Not a
You
light
bought
one.
mouse? Now you're talking about a literal mouse or
Computer mouse.
computer mouse, right? So when you bought a package and you bring in and you open the package, you notice that there's a box, and inside that box there might be some padding that would be there to protect the product, right? So there's layers on top of layers and on top of layers. So you got the content here, which is my laptop. The pink stuff here, pink stuff here is the padding. And then we have this cardboard box surrounding it. And this is exactly what a box model is inside of HTML. So let's go through the anatomies of box for a little bit. But let's talk about the dimensions just for a little bit. This becomes very important in just a little bit when I show you. We have top, bottom, left, and right. It's very, very self-explanatory. The top part is going to be top, the bottom is going to be bottom, the left part is going to be left, and the right part is going to be right. We're not going to go into too much detail how it's going to be read. Just remember that the box here has a specific terminology to describe them on each side. Okay, but inside the box is where it gets interesting. It doesn't look like anything that resembles the box, but let me just explain to you. In the box analogy, we have a laptop inside, which is the content. And over here, we have a content right here. Okay, that is the center of that box. Over here, we have a padding, which is pink, protecting the content, giving space between the box and the content. And we call this the padding, the green area here. Okay, and then when we expand further, the box itself, the cardboard box, is the border. And anything outside of that is called the margin. And then if you think about this, if you have a bunch of these boxes put together, they're all going to be the same thing. You can put them side by side, you can stack them, and they all will have the same order of the anatomy to it: content, padding, border, and margin. So let me show you guys what exactly am I talking about. So inside this input right here, I'm just going to start styling this. Let's talk about the top and bottom. Top, left, right, and bottom. So we say input. Something like this. But we don't want to just say top and do something, right? This doesn't do anything, right? If I refresh it, it doesn't do anything. There has to be some specific context as to what is it when I'm referring to when I say top, right? So what we're going to affect is we're just going to talk about border top, okay? And we're just going to say 2 pixels. The pixel will be the thickness of that border. But if I were to save it and go into the browser and just refresh it, you can kind of see something happen right here, but we weren't quite sure what it is, right? Because of the shadings of it all.
Can you exaggerate that a bit? I can't quite see.
Can you see it?
Oh, I meant like as far as the value.
Sorry. So let's just say 10. Nothing's happening. Okay. So the way you fix that is that we got to give it the border a specific a specific style, if you will. So we're just going to go with something called solid, and then we have to specify some kind of color. Let's just say black for a moment. And then if I update the website, you notice that the top is now shaded black. This thick black right here. It looks kind of ugly right now because we just want to show you guys the concept of it. All right, so that's here is the top, and I'm affecting the border. So let's go over the other ones. Border left. Okay, what do you think this is going to happen? Does anybody know? If I were to save it and update this now, which side of this input field is going to get affected?
Left side's going to be blue.
His left side is going to be blue, correct? Right? It looks like left side, right? And if I want to do it at the bottom, what would I have to do? Can you guys give it a wild guess?
Got to be border bottom, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can totally try border bottom like this. All right, and we'll do the same thing. We're just going to say 10 pixels, solid. And this time we're just going to give another color just to illustrate the concept. So here we have red. And then finally, we have border right. Solid. Let's just say green. Okay. And then here you have it. So now you can see how the top, bottom, left, and right. It's very important for you to know because you, as a developer, you're going to be frequently play with top, left, right, bottom, all that simultaneously. Okay, but for our sake, in this webinar, we're just going to go over. We're going to style it properly to make it look a little bit more appealing. So we're just going to erase all of that. By the way, does anybody have any questions so far in terms of the top, left, right, bottom, how it's being defined?
No, all good so far, Frankie.
Okay, awesome. So we're just gonna go into styling this now. We're gonna make it look at least somewhat good and presentable. So let's start with the, how about a different property? For those of you who don't know where I'm getting all these properties from, there's something called the Dictionary of CSS, which I'm going to give you guys a link right now. And inside here, you're going to find a whole list of properties that you guys can use. So you can see in the A section here, you got all this, and then you got B, you got all of this. See, all of this. Now, by the way, guys, if this looks a little intimidating, don't be, because you won't ever use all of it at the same time. At best, you're probably going to know throughout your career, maybe 60% of it. So I wouldn't be too worried about if this looks like it's very overwhelming. But if anybody has any questions where I get these property values from, it is all listed here. Okay. So we're just going to change a little bit of stuff here. We're just going to say the width. Let's change the width a little bit. 25%. So now I made it smaller. Okay. I can still type stuff there. That's great. Maybe I want to change something like background color. Give it white. No, white on white is not exactly a good idea. Don't do that. But I'm just showing you guys that there is a property here called background color that you can change. If I want to change something else, you can totally do that. All right. But we're just going to keep it white for now. And then maybe we want to start doing something with the content inside. So the content would be the text inside here. Okay. what we can do here is we can say the font size may be a little bit different. Maybe give it 10 pixels, make it smaller. Right? So now it is smaller. So let's do 5 so that you guys can see how this can have actual effect on the input field itself. Okay, I'm just going to change it back, and then maybe do something else. Maybe, you know, it's kind of squishy right now. It doesn't look like there's a lot of breathing room here. So maybe we can do one of the 4 things. We can either you guys can think about this. If I think about this analogy for a moment, what can we actually do to the content to give it a little bit more breathing space, right? We can't change the content because the content will just will always going to be stick on to the outside edge. Maybe we can try padding. So let's try padding. So let's go with top. Padding top, let's say something 12 pixels, and then I'll want to do to the bottom 12 pixels as well. So if I were to save this and go back here and change it, now we can see that I actually have changed the padding. So now the text inside is moving away from the top border here. So we're just going to go ahead and finish the rest of the input really quickly for you guys, so you guys can see the final result of that. Right now it looks a little too small, so in here maybe I'll increase the size to 50%. There you go. So now it looks a little bit better, but still doesn't look right because it's too much now. So here I can shrink it down smaller, however way you guys want to do it, because I'm just going through this with you guys. So if you guys have any idea of how you want to style it, you basically just need to find the right combination of property to make this look the way you want. Okay. So here, maybe I'll do 8 pixels, something like that. So for my case, I don't have to make this too perfect because I just want to show you guys exactly how this can all be done. But the last thing that I really want to show you guys is how do I make this look even a little bit better and not just a square, right? And then the last thing that we want to talk about is the border, right? Border radius. Okay. Let's say radius 25 pixel. Now I have something that looks circular, looks like a pill. Now this input looks and feels look a little bit more modern. It is no longer square, right? It looks a little bit more appealing, but it's still not quite there. We still have to fix this, blue border, if you will. But I will leave you guys with that as a kind of an assignment for you guys to figure out. So what you guys can do is you guys can go through the reference guide that I showed you here, and you can go through some of these properties and try to figure out what does what, right? This is probably going to take you maybe a few days, but it's going to be a very good practice for everybody here that are fairly new to get very familiar and intimate with the CSS, because you're going to be using this very, very frequently, actually all the time, right? And that's it.
Hey Frankie, could you share the code you have so far in the front-end beginners channel on Slack?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Shane. So does anybody have any question up to this point? So let's do a little recap of what I've talked about throughout the entire session. We talked about HTML, how to open it and how to close it. We talked about the analogies of a Russian doll. Now we have a body, and inside the body we have H1, paragraph, and an input. But more importantly, inside the paragraph, we also have a line break inside, which completes the Russian doll analogy that we have spoken about. And then we went on to talk about the CSS by encasing the CSS code inside a style tag. The content inside of style isn't HTML. It's purely a different language called CSS, which you can affect the stylings of HTML at a more refined level. We can change color, right? We can change the width. We can change the background color. And you guys also learned a little bit about the box model and how you can change the shapes and sizes and what is actually inside these H1 that you normally don't see, which is the content, the padding, the borders, and the margins. Sorry, we didn't get through the margins. I'll leave that for you guys to play around with, to explore. And with that, that is how you would style an input with CSS. Does anybody have any question? I know I've covered a lot of ground here in a very short period of time. So if you guys have any questions, this is the what if section now. You guys can launch any type of questions you want related to HTML CSS. No?
Frank, you have no
Everything
one.
makes 100% sense to everybody?
I got one question.
Yes.
Was the code to, or the CS style to remove the frame outline none?
You're talking about the input?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, I think Eric has an idea for removing the blue outline.
You guys want to remove it. You guys want to take on the challenge right now and not wait for another day. That's good. So you guys want to talk about this, the little blue border that around, right? Is that what you're talking about? Who?
Yeah.
So it's a
think
little
that was
homework
Eric.
assignment, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's homework.
Yeah. We can totally get into that just for you. We have to do something a little bit more beyond the current knowledge that we have given you in CSS. Then that is something called pseudo CSS. What that means is that inside this input, inside the CSS, there's something else that's going on inside that you don't see. So when I click on something like this, an input, you notice how it is triggering something, but there has to be a way to change this stuff, right? We can't just leave it there and just let it sit there and look blue and then just kind of conflict with all the designs of the web page and all that stuff. So what we can do here at this point, I think what we can do here is that we can do input, and by putting a semicolon here, we can tell it that we are targeting something like a click, what's called active or something like that. I believe in this case, I think it's called active. And you mentioned something called outline. So let's do something like that. Let's try it out and see what happens. Outline 0 pixel. Let's see what happens. Nope, nothing happened. Why? Can anybody guess why that is? I specify an input when it's active.
Can you set it to none?
Can I set it to none? Oh,
Guys,
that's
that
fancy. All right, it's still there. The reason why for that is because active has a different meaning. It is not a pseudo for input. What we need to do is we got to set focus. That is the technical definition in website. When you focus on something, when you click on an input, it's called a focus. And when you go out of it, right? Yeah, that's.
Can you change the background color on focus?
Oh, background color. That's an interesting one. Let's try that out. Boom. Ah, it didn't work out. Why is that? Anybody have a guess?
Is the background color white above it is
No,
taking the
focus should have
precedence?
precedence.
Focus as precedence.
Yeah. See that? Now it works. Right. But this one looks like the input here has precedence over the focus. So even though I specified the color blue here, the white will still shine through first thing. So I didn't save it, did I?
Yeah, I think you didn't refresh the page. The one underneath should have precedence.
Interesting. I couldn't get back to the way I used it. Nope. Yeah. Maybe I was.
That's still working there, right? It's if you click out, it goes white.
Yeah.
So if you click outside, it's not in focus.
Yeah, it's out of focus, and now you're in focus.
Cool.
Why the white has presence?
It doesn't. The blue does.
Ah. Sorry, did I mix that up?
Can you change it to red to make it a bit clearer? Like the background color white, the default
red.
color. Yeah.
Cool. It's red. So now it's red.
Okay.
What's
Okay.
the so what's the opposite of focus? Is it just if there's nothing?
Yeah, just
Like
the
input
default.
with nothing?
The default one is
Yeah.
is the opposite.
So if you click outside,
So if I
it's input with button, and when you click inside, it's input focus. So that's how.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's not really precedence. It either is focus or not.
That's it. Does that answer your question too? About how to get rid of that outline?
I think it was Eric that asked.
Oh, is that Eric? Sorry. Because from my perspective, I only see like a few
Oh, yeah,
people.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you want to show the hover?
Hover. Hover is also a good one. Input. So another pseudo is hover. But hover, let's do something a little different. In normal website, you notice how, see my little cursor here? It looks like it's just a default cursor. It doesn't look very good, right? I wanted to do something like more like a finger, a pointer, right? So we use a different property called cursor. And then we're going to set it to a value of pointer. If we do something like that, every time I hover over this, why does it not show hover?
Check your semicolons, Frank.
Actually, refresh.
You caught me, Shane. There you go. Now I have this really big finger clicking my input.
Don't do that in real life, guys. You want to have the text. You don't want to have a pointer, because otherwise it looks like a button.
Yeah, you gotta reserve that pointer for like.
Maybe do something like a background color or
links.
something.
Yeah, let's get rid of the background color a little bit. Time to. Let's just get rid of that. Good stuff. Cool.
Hey Frankie, could you put like a similar color on focus for the background, like a gray or something? Maybe so it's clear that it's in focus, but it's not. It's not like weird.
So you mean something like this?
Well, yeah, light gray. But
A light gray. Shane, do you have any idea how we can do that? Because right now we have gray right here.
can we have more
Just
control?
type
over-
light gray.
Like Ray.
I think it's one word, but I
I think it's one word, isn't it? Is it the EY? Yep.
Very cool. I just, so you kind of see that it's in focus.
Yeah. Any other questions that you guys have with what we have done so far here? Maybe I'll show you guys the last thing that we didn't really go through is the margin, right? I didn't get to show you guys. Everything outside of this input is the margin. If I said margin top, something really high value, you notice how it gets pushed down. And that's it. I cover the content, the padding, borders, and margin. That completes the box model. If nobody has any more questions, we're just going to open up the session for whatever questions you guys want to have now. It doesn't have to be HTML, CSS. It can be career related. It could be anything after this now. If you guys have more experience with web development and you have questions